president of Kentucky. Deborah, would you go get the 3 open mic hats?
3 open mic hats, sure will.
Yeah, thanks. Welcome to 2019 Kentucky Storytelling. We're here. I'm a little addled, but we're here. So welcome. I especially want to offer you welcome from a very special person, Hillary Spangler, who is a member of our board. Was the conference chair this year. Well, when she took that job way back a year or so ago, she didn't realize that when she graduated from college, she was going to go to New York to graduate school. And so she did. And so she's not able to be here today because her graduate school meets on Saturdays. So, but I want to bring you special greetings from Hillary. If she was here, she would be doing this and welcoming you. But I want to just give you her greetings because she's so excited about this, even though she can't be here. She was just all upset that she wasn't going to be able to be here. But she has done a wonderful job getting this all set up. And so we owe her our great thanks. If you look for a minute in your conference folder, I'm going to tell you what's in there. There is a schedule. Well, there is this sheet. If you would fill out this sheet, put it back on the registration table. This is like just data that we collect about the economic impact of having a conference in a place. Because when we go other places and they say, well, why should we help you? And we say, because this is the economic impact of having 60 people show up in your locale. So that helps us. It helps us get a better deal when we're working on conferences. Then there's a schedule. There are restaurants. And I think, did somebody go to Saison's tonight? Eat? Was it a steakhouse?
Yeah.
Okay, it says it's Mexican because that's what it said on its website, but apparently it's just a steakhouse. So.
Well, it's steak and Mexican.
Good. But those are places. There's also a Moe's. You know, the sandwich wrap people, there's a Moe's, and they didn't show up on the website, but there's a Moe's down here on that main road, off that main road there. Deli, so you can add that to your list of things. Then there is a workshop schedule and location. I need to tell you, there's been a little bit of change of venue, but for those who are going to take workshops that are in room 2 is now next door. Through that door, or you can come through room 1, or you can go out that door and go in the door for room 1. But room 2 will be, the sign out there says it's going to be the back of this. That ain't going to work. It's going to be over there. So for all you who are taking those, you're relieved. Now I know, and all those who are leading those workshops are relieved because we have another room. So just bear that in mind. And then your last sheet there is, then there's a workshop evaluation. When you take the workshops, there's please fill out the evaluation. This has a place for all 4 workshops. And so you fill out this whole sheet, and then before you leave, after the last workshop, you will turn that in, and then we'll do the evaluation. That way we tell our workshop leaders how they did. We get an idea how it worked, and that's really important to us. And really, really important to us, conference evaluation. That is a conference. Either before the last concert or after the last concert, be sure to fill this out and drop it. There'll be places to drop it out in the corridor. So that's what I need to tell you about that. Any questions? Oh yes, if you are taking this for continuing education units. If you have not gotten a sheet, you need to go out to the registration and there's a sheet there that for you to document what you attend here. When you attend the workshop, you get your workshop leader to sign that you were at the workshop. And at the end of the last workshop, you bring that to, for the events, the open events like this, you get either me or Deborah Kumar, who's our president-elect. She's going to be taking over the helm here real quick. Get one of us to sign for the concert, the open mic, the meeting, all of that stuff that you can get stuff on. So let us sign that, and but get your workshop leader to sign that. And if you need a worksheet, they're out at the registration table for those that need CEUs. Any other questions, comments, concerns? I think now we're back on schedule. Yeah, I'm good, all right? Tonight, we're going to have some fun before the concert. We're going to have open mic. Now, if you have not signed up for open mic, these hats are going to go back out on the table. And you can sign up anytime between them. But let me tell you this. You'll notice that there's a sign up there. And it says that if you sign up for open mic, you're giving us permission to videotape you. Because tonight we have with us ARC TV from Norton, Virginia. They're going to be videotaping parts of our conference for us. I think they're planning to rebroadcast it on their TV show, on their TV thing. But also, we may be able to get some videotapes that we can use for promotion and stuff like that from them. So you're giving permission when you sign up for open mic. I'm sorry, but you gave your permission to be, if you're wanted, don't do it. Whatever. If you're trying to stay off the grid, don't do it. But if you aren't, you are giving your permission. So we're just going to pick names out of a hat here. See here, and see who gets to be the first choice. You have 10 minutes. 10 minutes. For some of you, that's going to be a little difficult. But I decided that after 10 minutes, I'm going to do what they do in the old churches, and I'm going to start singing you down. So when I start singing, it means you better get done. Our first storyteller is Octavia Sexton. She is a seasoned storyteller.
I was like, don't pull me out first.
Oh, I'm sorry. I put you back, call you later.
Okay, I'm actually going to do one that I've never told before. I worked in schools, and just last week, or just actually, what is this, Friday? Thursday or Wednesday, I worked with some 8th graders, and they created this story. It's a class story. And because I work with Jack Tales, and they create a little Jack Tale. So here's one that this 8th grade group created. First time ever told. I told them. Well, it was way back a long time ago. And there was this here boy by the name of Jack, and he lived over yonder in Perry County. Now, Jack lived with his mom, and he had a cat. And it was his pet. He named her Bessie. And he loved that cat. Well, he got up one morning to go feed Bessie. And Bessie had 3 noses. He's like, Bessie, what's happened to you, Bessie? You got 3 noses. And he went running back in. Mama, Bessie's got 3 noses. She said, Jack, I just turned on TV, and all the gals around here, they're popping out 3 noses. He said, oh, Mama. He said, this is terrible. He said, I've got to go find out what happened. And she said, well, Jack, go to some of these farms, because everybody's gals are now getting 3 noses. off, to get Bessie. And she didn't really want to go anywhere. She wasn't feeling so good. Snot coming out of all those little holes, And she's like, and he was like, okay, Bessie, you stay here. I'll try to get some help. And he started across the field, and he saw a big old cow snake. Now, Jack knew that a cow snake's a good snake. Black snakes are good snakes. You don't kill those kind of snakes. They keep the bad snakes off. They keep the copperheads and all that off. And Jack had always known that, and he made it very careful that he would not harm any of the snakes. But he seen it, and he started going around it, and that snake just kind of came up and said, Jack. Jack was like, you talk? Yeah, Jack, snakes talk all the time. We just don't talk to anybody. He said, but Jack, you've always been good to us snakes. And he said, I seen you out here hollering at Bessie, you're all upset. He said, I know what's wrong. Jack said, what's wrong? He said, Jack, you see that tree right there? Jack said, yeah. He said, that tree wasn't there yesterday. Jack said, that tree's 16 foot tall. Well, that didn't just spring up. He said, Jack, it ain't a tree. And he said, you see that fir tree over yonder? Yeah, it ain't a tree. And he said, and he started pointing out, And Jack's like, well, they look like trees. He said, they ain't trees. And all of a sudden, all those trees started shaking and shaking. And they turned into little pink creatures. And they had 4 arms. And they had 4 legs. And they had 4 noses and 4 ears and 1 eye. Well, they came running up to Jack. And he was like, Pa, what is going on? They said, listen, Jack, we need to explain something. We're from another universe. And we don't mean no harm. We come visiting other planets and said, we've been here studying this planet. And said, to keep from being seen or scaring anybody, well, we turn ourselves into trees. And said, we get rooted. And somehow our DNA has leaked into the soil. And the cows are eating the grass. And our DNA is messing with their DNA, and now they've sprouted 4 noses. And before long, they're probably going to have 8 legs. And, and maybe just 1 eye. Maybe one of the right. We don't really know. But, Jack, we do know how to fix this. And he said, well, I want it fixed. He said, I want Bessie back to normal. Said, she's a snorting and a snotting. He said, Jack, we're going to root down again, and so we're going to suck up all the DNA that we put out. And said, in our spaceship, we have boogers. Jack said, what? He said, Jack, it's the best thing to study if you're trying to learn about a species. And he said, especially snot in Perry County. He said, it's easy to come by. He said, because, we see these men all the time. Don't even use handkerchiefs. He said, that's good. You don't waste nothing. And said, we've been gathering up all this snot and boogers, and we have 4 arms. And so there's a lot of us, and said we were fixing to go out and take these boogers, which we have messed with a little bit, to make the cows back to normal. And he said, how are you going to do it with the boogers? He said, Jack, we're going to shove it up their noses. And so we can do it fast because we all got 4 arms. And Jack said, well, all right, start with Bessie. And he said, well, we'll just send one. Said that, the rest of us, we got to get out and get busy. So all them little pink things, they just all took off. And one of them, came back with Jack, had them 4 little arms reached down, and had a little jar of boogers, and Bessie's nose went back to normal. And Jack, he was like, well, I sure appreciate that. And them things, they said, now listen, Jack, said, we're going to go away. And said, they ain't no need, and you trying to explain to anybody this whole situation, because they ain't going to believe you. And said, we've seen that Facebook stuff and that Instagram, and they'll start putting that out about you, Jack. And said, they're going to lock you up. It's crazy. Said, you better zip it up. Zip it up. You ain't seen no little pink people. He said, no, I didn't see no pink people. And they started to leave, and he said, so you never will be back? And they said, well, we're not saying that, but you won't see us. And Jack went back to the house, and don't you know, that big old cow snake became one of Jack's best friends. And that's the truth, and that's the end of that story. They made that story up real fast.
That's great.
Yeah, they just follow a little thing that I use with them, and I get some great stories that way. And I try to get them to tell stories too. Okay.
Put it back.
Well, you said you'd start singing or something, so.
Well, we didn't get to 10 minutes.
Well, you were looking at me.
I'm looking at you.
Oh.
Now, David says, all right, we need to give away a door prize. So I'm going to ask Deborah to reach down in this basket and pick somebody's name out. And read it out loud.
This is White Henry.
Dwight,
Yay.
come over here and pick the door prize off the table, Dwight. We'll be giving these out through the conference, and you'll get to pick one out. So I'm gonna stick that in my pocket so it doesn't get mixed up. All right, that was Octavia. She did a great job. She's good. We have three kinds of storytellers here. We have three kinds. We have people who have told, which is the fancy hat, who are what we call seasoned tellers, told a lot. We have people who told some. Maybe they've told, talked to grandchildren. Maybe they got up in Sunday school and they've told a story or two. And then we have people who said, I haven't told anything, but I got a story. So we got those three kinds. And one of the great things about doing open mic is we are an accepting audience. You cannot fall flat on your face here. We will applaud you, and it'll be good, and we'll love it, because we're very, very important. So we're going to try we're going to get a novice up here. And that's not any, that's not the right. Millicent? Well, how they get them together and they both get the test.
Okay, for you that don't know me, I'm Octavia's sister, her older sister. So I'm going to tell a story about my first airplane ride. And this was way back when Octavia was working in the health department. She was going into the schools and doing sex education and different things, but she had to go to conferences. And this time, the conference was in Colorado, in Denver, Colorado. So we caught the plane in Lexington and flew to Colorado. The plane ride was great, and we had a great time out in Denver. And then we had, it actually, the last day we were there, it snowed. It was beautiful most of the week, but it snowed. And we hadn't really heard any weather forecast that day for Denver or, Kentucky. So we caught the plane, supposed to come back to Lexington. But we hadn't been on the plane, it didn't seem like too long, till we got in this turbulence. And the plane, and everybody on the plane was scared, and I guess they told us, to whatever it is you're supposed to do, buckle your seatbelts, and so it was really scary. And I was sitting by the window, and you could see out the window. Well, Octavia and her son Ellis Dale's her son, he was with us, and he was probably about 20 years old now, and Ellis was really freaking out. So she closed the window, the shade. But I'm sitting back here on the other side, and I could see the wing, and I actually saw a lightning bolt. It just rolled off the wing. It was really weird. But it was so scary, and we were all praying. We thought, this is not good, And then they told us they were going to make an emergency landing in Chicago. And we circled the airport in Chicago once and twice and 3 times, and all this time it was storming. Finally, we got landed and went into the airport there in Chicago. And they said we were not going anywhere the rest of the night. And Octavia was going like, I have to go home. I have to get my son's medication. You have to let us on a plane. You have to get us out of here. I have to go home. And me and Ellis Dale were standing back here. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I said, I'm not going back up there tonight. And he said, I'm not going back up there tonight. And so finally, Octavia got settled down. They brought out these cots. There were probably 150 of us that were stranded that night. No planes were going up. And they set all these cots up for us and gave us a blanket and a pillow. And they gave us a little bag that had toothpaste and toothbrush and comb. And it had deodorant, which I tell you really needed by that time. And we had to stay all night in Chicago. And it wasn't early, but finally the next day they got us a plane. They finally got a plane out and went back to Lexington. And so that was my first airplane. It wasn't my last one. I took another one. It was also not so memorable.
We may run out of people before we run out of time. They got that big signed up. We're going to try one that told a little. And that is Dwight Henry.
Well, you know, the good Lord works in mysterious ways. Now, Faith Chapel Church was a little country church. 1 room, white wood structure, beautiful. Looked like it belonged on the cover of National Geographic magazine. Now, I happened to be a pastor at the time. And the only running water we had at that church was a little creek that ran by the church house, and that's where we had all our baptizings. And we had no indoor plumbing, no indoor commodes. Although, we did have what I like to tell my people, the best outhouse in Buffalo Valley. And now, of course, all of you know that the outhouse was the original porta potty, except the outhouse was all potty and no porta. It just stayed right there where it was built until it was full. Now, most of our church members, truth be told, did their bathroom business before they left the house, or they just kind of held it till they got home. But once in a great while, we had one of our church members that just absolutely had to go. And you know, when you got to go, you got to go. Sister Mildred, one day, one Sunday morning, right after Sunday school, and right before church, just felt that urge, and she had to take that trip to what we affectionately call that little brown shack out back. Now, Sister Mildred went out there. Now, Sister Mildred, I must say, she was what my grandpa might call a right fleshy woman. She always wore a long skirt down to her ankles, and back in those days, no woman would dare go to church without a pair of pantyhose on. So she went to the outhouse, and she assumed the sitting position, and she got everything pulled down that needed to be pulled down, and everything pulled up that needed to be pulled up, and she was ready to do business. But now I know what I'm going to tell you in the next 3 or 4 minutes. Some of you good people say, I don't know about that. Now, I just don't know about that. But let me challenge you. Go down Interstate 75, find Interstate 40, go west toward Nashville, get off on exit 268, go to the right, and go several miles, and you'll see this little white church hill standing there today. And you'll see the remnants of this outhouse that I'm telling you about. Well, Sister Mildred got in there, and she was all ready, and she, as she would particularly like to do on the Lord's Day, she looked up toward the heavens. And what she saw changed our little church, and it changed that whole community forever. Because when she looked up, she saw hanging down from the top of that outhouse, 2 or 3 inches above her eyeballs, a long black snake. Now, Sister Mildred, out in the country, liked every once in a while call it what we call get spiritual in church. She got spirit. And when Sister Mildred got spiritual, she got loud. And when Sister Mildred got loud, she sounded like a sneeze and a woman screaming and a wild animal howling all at the same time. She saw that snake and she cut loose. Woo! Woo! I mean, you could have heard her halfway to Nashville. And that scream evidently scared that snake, because that snake let go of whatever it was holding on to at the top of that outhouse and dropped right down into her pantyhose. Now, she kicked that door open that outhouse and she began running toward the church house. Ha, woo! Ha, woo! Ha, woo! And meantime, inside the church, visited for the very first time was Herman Dean. Now, Herman Dean had a reputation in our community of being a hard-living, hard drinking, hard cussing man. Oh, he cussed so much. He cussed so much he wore out the regular cuss words. He had to make up his own cuss words. He cussed so much. And every single Sunday, his little wife Marilyn, his little daughter Dolly, and his little boy little Luke would be sitting right there on the pew, and hardly ever service went by that Marilyn didn't raise her hand and say, y'all please pray for my husband Herman Dean. Pray that he would just come to church with me one Sunday. He needs to change his way of living. And that of all Sundays happened to be the Sunday that Herman Dean was right there. Right-hand side of the church, sitting right there where Judy is, about the 3rd row back on, right close to the aisle, next to his family. Well, I want you to know that my brother Noel, he was our song leader, and he was getting cranked up one of our favorites as our first song. He got out the red hymnal, the same one that the Apostle Paul used, and we started to sing one of our favorites. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Or when the saints go marching, and I want you to know about that time, boom, through the back door, Sister Mildred came marching in. Ah, woo! Ah, woo! Well, what she didn't know, in between the outhouse and the church house, that snake had fell out of her pantyhose. So Brother Noble thought that she was in the spirit. Well, when Sister Mildred got in the spirit, the music just got faster. When the saints go marching in, or when the saints go marching, and she took off running down the right side of the church, right where Judy's sitting right now just about, and I don't know if it's a good Lord or coincidence or whatever, but her feet got tangled up, and she sprawled out right in the middle of Herman Dean's lap, just a swinging her arms and spitting and hollering, saying, Lord help us, Lord help us, Lord help us. Well, Herman Dean's sitting there, man, he didn't know what was going on. He turned white and said, ghost. He didn't know if the Lord was talking to him, if the devil was trying to get him, but he just sat there, feeling and afraid. But all of a sudden, he stood up. He stood up, and there wasn't a sermon, there wasn't an altar call, there wasn't anything. That man headed straight to the altar, and he hit his knees. And I want you to know that Herman Dean prayed through all 4 verses of When the Saints Go Marching In. He prayed through all 4 verses of I'll Fly Away, and we was halfway through, just over in the glory land, and this big old man stood up. 6'4", 6'5", 250, 75 pounds. And he stood up, and when he stood up, he could hear a pin drop. Well, what we learned, well, we learned a lot more than we're going to learn, to tell you the truth. But what we learned was that he used to do one thing about one verse in the Bible. And that verse says, confess your faults one to another. Lord have mercy. He started to confess. I mean, he went all the way back to when he was in the 1st grade, and he stole a little girl's lunchbox, and he had her sandwich, and she went all day hungry. And then he fast forward to his first date in the car when him and the girl was at the drive-in movie, and he put his arm around her, and they commenced to, well, there's no redeeming value going on with that part of it. But I want you to know, the very next Sunday, the first person through that door was Herman Dean. And it was like that every single Sunday after that. And you know what? People in the community heard about that, and they said, if that church can help Herman Dean, it can help anybody. Our church build up. Now, that was a long time ago. But if you go down to Buffalo Valley and Rock Springs today, they're still talking about it. How the good Lord used a black snake, an outhouse, and a pair of pantyhose to bring Herman Dean to his knees. Thank you very much.
I'm a pastor too, and I love the church story. But you have to be careful what you tell them.
That's true.
Yes. Okay, let's see who else we get here. Yeah, I was thinking about how
Miss Carolina got baptized.
Okay, let's see who we got here. You're in the seasoned storytellers here now. And the next one is Dot Cleveland. Come on, Dot. It may be tough to top Dwight, but
I know.
we should have saved him for last.
Yes. No outhouse in this story. No outhouse. I'm from Minnesota. So you don't know me, but I'm here. This is my version of the Frog Prince. A little folk tale. The prince and the girl lived happily ever after. And so did the stepmother, for she had kept her promise too. Promises. Oh, promises. A good woman keeps her promises. Well, the girl, she waited until the frog asked twice to cut off his head with the axe. Chopped it right off. For you see, the prince had irritated a witch, and the witch had put a curse on him that said he would remain a frog until he could spend a whole night with a woman and get her to do whatever he wanted. Well, the girl didn't know that at the time, but she cut off his head because those googly eyes were staring at her. And after all, she did spend the night with him in her bed, on her clean sheets. He was serenading her. He was touching her hair with those little sticky frog legs. She had to carry him upstairs. His legs were tired from the long walk, and, well, his belly was full, for you see, she had promised him food. And so she had a plate. He sat on the table, on her plate, and she would cut up little pieces of bread and milk to feed him. She had to answer the door when he knocked. Her stepmother said, who could be at the door at this time of night? And the girl, well, she hung her head, and you met him on the road, didn't you? You promised him something, didn't you? Well, a good girl keeps her promises, and boy, that girl really hated that saying. Her stepmother kept saying it over and over again. Now, she had met the frog earlier that day at the well at the world's end. Her stepmother had sent her, she didn't know why, but her stepmother had sent her to take a sieve and bring back the water from the well. It was the frog's idea to use clay and moss to line the sieve so that it would hold the water. Otherwise, the girl would have been hanging her head over the well forever in that cold water. But finding the well, that was a job in and of itself, for it's always easier to come home than it is to get there. She had met an old woman along the way who knew the way to the well at the world's end. That woman, well, she was old and she had a scarf over her head, so the girl never saw her. But she was so relieved. She had asked so many people where the well was. The stepmother, well, she had sent her there because she caught her primping herself in the mirror, looking at her pretty eyes, looking at her pretty teeth, when she was supposed to be cleaning, when she was supposed to be sweeping, when she was supposed to be mending. So the stepmother said, said, go, or there will be consequences, for the stepmother had made a promise too. Ah, yes. Promises, promises. The girl remembered a time when her mother was alive. And when her mother was alive, there were no chores. They had servants. And so when the father, who was always absent, married the new woman, the girl said to her, "You're not very pretty. My mother was beautiful. And my father says I look just like her." The stepmother jaw tightened and another wrinkle formed on her face, but she kept her promise. She kept the promise to the merchant to keep his daughter safe. There once was a time when the fairies danced at twilight. There was a time when the wind did not blow cold and the porridge was hot and thick. That was the time that the merchant married the woman. And a good woman always keeps her promise. Thank you.
Good storytelling. Good story.
Judy Baker.
Thank y'all. This is my first opportunity to come and tell for the Kentucky Storytelling Association. I'm a brand new member, so. On our way up here from northeast of Chattanooga, we passed through some pretty country that my husband and I kind of grew up in. He grew up just over the Kentucky line down below Middlesboro. And as we were coming up, we saw signs. You see signs that say Deer Crossing. Saw signs that said Elk Crossing. By the time we got to the Cumberland Gap Historical Park, we saw a sign that said Bear Crossing. And I said, well, that's a new one. We hadn't seen them yet. But the funny thing was, when we got on the other side of Middlesboro, we didn't see any more Bear Crossing signs. They almost moved to town. But anyway, the oldest baby boy had a dream. The little farm that he grew up on with his mom and his daddy and all his brothers and sisters was just south of the crossroads there at Sandlip, actually down in Gowan. Now, he didn't mind helping his mom and daddy on the farm. He knew that it was necessary. He knew that's how they made a living, but he had a dream that someday he wouldn't have to wear his overalls every day. He had a dream that one day when he grew up and left home to do his life's work, that he would wear a suit. His dream was to wear a suit and tie to work every day. His mama and daddy wanted to help him achieve that dream because they loved their kids. They loved him. He was such a good help to them that they wanted him to realize that dream, but they didn't know of anybody that wore a suit and tie every day to work. Even the preacher down at Lily Grove Church only wore a tie on Sundays. Well, that so happened they had to go to a funeral in the middle of the week up in town, and they noticed that the funeral home director had a suit and tie on in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week. So he set his sights on being a funeral home director, and his mama and daddy set their sights on helping him. They had saved and scrimped, and they were able to send him off to Nashville to a funeral home school. He loved it. He loved studying. He loved going to conferences. He loved going to classes. Every time they had something new, a new seminar, he went. He loved learning. Well, the last class that he attended attended, right before he graduated, was something new. It was up and coming. It wasn't common around the area. It was the fine art of cremation. And he knew when he went back home and he opened up a little funeral home, he knew there on the farm there was an old farmhouse that his grandpa had lived in, and when they built the new brick house, they wouldn't be living in it, and it was right beside the old corn crib that was right beside the old brick silo. Well, after he took that last place, he thought, oh, the crematory is a great big chimney, and that old silo would make a fine chimney. Well, he graduated with honors. He had his diploma in hand. His mom and daddy met him up at the gas station with Greyhound bus stop twice a day. He got off with his little suitcase with his diploma, and he said, I'm ready to go to work. His mom and daddy helped him clear out that little farmhouse, and they rounded up a few odd chairs and put them in there, and he painted a sign and took it up to the crossroads and put it on a fence post, and it said, welcome to the if you're not coming, you're going funeral home and crematory. His mom and daddy were so proud. They said, look, if this don't work out, he's got a backup plan. He's going to milk cows and sell the cream. He didn't tell his mom and daddy what cremation was because they were old-fashioned, and he was afraid they may not approve. Well, he didn't have any customers for the first couple of weeks till early one morning, old man Chumley died. And nobody knew how old man Chumley was. They just know he told stories about how he chunked rocks at the Yankees at the Battle of Lookout Mountain. And he lived with his son and his grandson on a little farm down Straight Creek. And the Chumleys had a reputation of wanting to be first at anything. They had the first tractor ever seen in the valley. They had the first light pole thrown off of their yard when the REA came through and electrified everybody. And at night, everybody from the valley would go and watch them turn the lights on at night. So he finally kicked the bucket. Now, nobody knew the secret to the Chumleys' longevity except for the men of the family. Handed down from generation to generation, that secret was a little dab of gunpowder sprinkled over your breakfast. Well, old man Chumley liked biscuits and gravy, so that's where his gunpowder went. His son didn't really care for biscuits and gravy. He put his over his grits. And the grandson, he was a modern kind of man. He put his over his post toasties. Well, when the old man kicked the bucket, the Chumleys also liked to help out their neighbors, so they went down to the Bailey boy. He was going to be the first funeral at the if not, you're not coming, you're going funeral home crematory. You know, there's something new, and we know how you like new stuff. Nobody in town has ever done it. Nobody in Knoxville's even doing it yet. You'll be the first. And the oldest Bailey boy offered the ceremonial cremation of the old man. Well, they didn't tell him what he'd had for breakfast that morning. And he didn't tell them what cremation involved. So they left him. The oldest Bailey boy got the old man ready for the procedure. The ensuing explosion caused that silo to lift off the ground. See, there were years and years and years of gravy and biscuits and loaded gunpowder in him. It took off and went into orbit. When it passed over Knoxville, the McGee Tyson Airport radar people saw the blip on the screen. And the heat came out from that thing, and the cornfield that silo had been in was ripe and ready for harvest, and every one of those kernels popped. Well, Miss Bailey sent everybody down to the store at the crossroads to get every paper poke that he had. And they shoveled up all of that popcorn, and they took it up to the Princess Theater in town and sold it for a nickel a bag. So it wasn't a total loss. And at the end of the day, the mama was heard to say, there's no great loss without some small gain.
Judy's one of our presenters. Might check out her book.
Okay, let's see who else we got here in the hat. Paul Strickland.
Hey everybody. So I thought I would just tell you a quick story, a family story about how two of my favorite family members met. My Aunt True and my Uncle Faltz live in a trailer park called Big Fib Trailer Park Cul-de-sac. It's trailer parks in the shape of a giant cul-de-sac in a town called Big Fib, which is way down south of here. It's down there off the coast of Factual. In fact, if you leave Factual and you head due south, you will pass Big Fib on your way to Baldface. And obviously, if you get to Baldface, then you have gone too far. Now, I went down there recently to ask the two of them to tell me a few of my favorite of their stories, and they told me the story of how the two of them met. Uncle Faltz started the story. He said, "Once upon a time," then Aunt True interrupted him. She said, "Honey, don't start the story about the way we met, the way people start stories about wizards and castles. We ain't that old." And Uncle Faltz said, "Well, how you want me to start the story then, True?" Aunt True said, "Well, honey, start the story the way you started every story for 65 plus years. You say, 'Listen here,' even though I was already listening and had nowhere else I could go." And so, here's the story. Listen here. Once upon a time. When Uncle Faltz was 7 years old, his father had a 1949 forest green Plymouth Suburban station wagon, and Uncle Faltz said, "Well, I thought that car ran half on cuss words because it wouldn't start unless Daddy said a bunch of them." I mean, come to think of it, I bet that's why we always walked to church. Well, the summer that Uncle Faltz was 7 years old was also the same summer that Aunt True's family moved to the trailer park. And she at that time was very interested in math, so she was 5 7/8 years old. Uncle Faltz always said, "Well, this is the first time she told me she's 5 7/8 years old. I thought, Lord, wherever they're from, they must measure years in socket wrenches." Well, the summer that Uncle Faltz was 7 and Aunt True was 5 7/8 was also the same summer that Uncle Faltz's daddy found religion and bridled his evil tongue. So that forest green Plymouth Suburban station wagon never moved again. Uncle Faltz's daddy pushed that car up one of these two metal ramps, the back wheels up one of these two metal ramps to ostensibly work on the car. But every time he went to work on the car, he'd have evil thoughts and go have to ask for forgiveness at church the next Sunday. And so that car just stayed there. And we all know what an all-steel stationary station wagon is to a 7-year-old, friends. It's a castle. Uncle Faltz said, "I called it Castle Cuss-a-Lot." Now, the first words that my Aunt True ever said to my Uncle Faltz were, "What are you doing?" Aunt True always stops the story right here to say, "Honey, some things ain't changed in 70 years. Aunt True, 5 7/8 years old, Aunt True was standing there. She looked up at Uncle Faltz, who was standing on top of Castle Cuss-a-Lot. She said, "What are you doing?" And Uncle Faltz said, "I am surveying my kingdom from this turret. How old are ye, new peasant?" And Aunt True said, 5 7/8. And Uncle Faltz said, "And 7/8." And Aunt True said, "Yeah, it's a fraction." And Uncle Faltz said, "This kingdom does not deal in math sorcery." And then Aunt True walked home. Uncle Faltz's favorite fraction has always been ish. Now, this went on like this for several days. Aunt True trying to come over to make a connection. Uncle Faltz always acting a fool. Until finally, Aunt True was 5 365th years old. And she walked over and knocked on the window at Castle Cuss-a-Lot. Uncle Faltz rolled that window down, and Aunt True said, "Hey, I'm having a birthday party tomorrow at my trailer. Mama is making me invite you." So you should come over. I'll be 6, so it'll be safe for you. There will be no fractions. And she just turned around and walked away. Now, Uncle False did this thing that I bet we have all done at some point in our lives. We're in the middle of a heated moment. You say something that doesn't really have anything to do with the argument at hand, you know? But you're flustered. And the thing is, because it came from you, that thing that you said, it actually betrays more about how you really feel. Ain't True was walking away. Uncle False didn't know what to say, and he just went, "Don't you want to be a princess?" Ain't True turned around and she said, "No, I don't want to be a princess, but I do want to get in that car." And Uncle False said, "Well, it ain't a car, it's a castle." And Ain't True said, "Castle windows don't roll down." And Uncle False said, "You should learn to play along." Which is the thing you used to be able to do back in those times. I don't know if you... Yeah, there was a time where you could dramatically roll up a window. It doesn't work now, does it? You should learn to play along. But anyway, Uncle False said, "You should learn to play along." And then Ain't True took off running right in front of Castle Cussle. And then Uncle False thought she was playing along, was going to get to the passenger side door. So he started scooting as fast as he could across that giant bench sheet. You know, those cars back then were 1.5 miles across. And so he was just scooting as fast as he could to get over to that door to unlock it for Ain't True. But then she kept running around the back of Castle Cussle, got right back where she was starting, threw open the driver's side door, sat down behind the wheel, slammed the driver's side door, looked at Uncle False, and victoriously smiled. Ain't True always says, "Honey, why would I pretend to be a princess when not playing along is how you get the real power?" Said, "Listen here, she tricked me so bad, it made me so mad, I said every cuss word in Daddy's vocabulary, and that's when the car started." That car started scared Ain't True so bad she slipped off the front of that bench seat. Her right foot smacked into the accelerator pedal. The car was in neutral, so the engine just revved really loud, rolled off those 2 metal ramps right into the center of that cul-de-sac-shaped trailer park. The car was going 2.5 miles an hour. Everything would have been fine. A bunch of adults saw what happened, jumped up out of their trailers and ran out to help. Everything would have been fine if Uncle False's daddy, mid-car chase, didn't relapse and lose his religion. Y'all, he cussed Uncle False so bad that car shifted into gear, spun its wheels, and took off out the trailer park. Luckily, Ain't True had regained her composure and her balance and was able to safely steer the car out of the cul-de-sac-shaped trailer park with minimal damage to the car. They say she got about 100 yards down that gravel road outside of the cul-de-sac-shaped trailer park before the car got out of earshot of Uncle False's daddy's oaths, at which point it just rolled to the side of the road and died. And there they sat, having been through the craziest ride. And Ain't True and Uncle False, that's who they still are today, you know? Just two people sitting there together, having been through the craziest ride. On their way out of the cul-de-sac-shaped trailer park, the only damage that had been done to the car, the right passenger side mirror had smacked into Ain't True's family's brand new mailbox, knocked the mailbox off the post, bent that passenger side mirror in, and so there they sat, Ain't True and Uncle False, having been through that crazy ride, and they could see each other in that bent-in passenger side mirror. And Uncle False always ends the story like this. He says, "Listen here, boy, back in those times, them mirrors didn't always say, objects in mirror are closer than they appear. But me and Ain't True, we were."